Okay, so let's go over the Venn diagram for the characteristics and needs of living things. I'm going to increase the view on this so you can see it a little bit easier. And so I don't want you to get confused. Oh, I'm drawing a line there. I don't want you to get confused by all the different lines and stuff. I'm going to have to zoom out for a minute so you can get a different view of this. Okay, but basically life, living things, right? Living things have two things. They either have characteristics, things that are inherent within them, or they have needs, things that they acquire from the environment. So you were introduced to these terms on the last sheet I gave you, which was a table of your characteristics and needs for you to list and identify them and define them. And then you're supposed to take these things and elaborate by putting them onto the graphic organizer. So I like to go over the characteristics first. And to get to the first level here, just look at the lines coming off and you'll find out what the general characteristics are. These other lines coming off of that are more specific examples and things of those initial characteristics. So for instance, characteristics, here's an arrow. Living things perform complex chemical activities. All living things use chemical reactions to sustain life. Okay? So if I want to know further what kind of things constitute a chemical activity, I can look at the lines going off of that box. So photosynthesis is one of those things. Autotrophs use this process to make food in the form of glucose by using carbon dioxide, water, and light. Oxygen is a waste product of this process. So an autotroph, the prefix auto means by itself. Troph means food. So an autotroph makes food by itself. And this process, photosynthesis, forms the food source glucose, and it's made by using carbon dioxide, water, and light. And oxygen is produced as a waste product. That's why plants are releasing oxygen. Another complex chemical activity is respiration. This is what you're doing right now. You are using oxygen and glucose from the food you ate earlier in the day or last night or last time you ate, and you're making energy to do lots of things, growing, developing, all the multitude of chemical processes called metabolism inside your body. Okay? And you're releasing carbon dioxide, right? All of you are breathing out every couple of seconds. You're breathing in and breathing out. Every exhale has carbon dioxide coming out of your body. It's a waste product. That's why you excrete it. Another example of a chemical process is digestion. Breaking down of food into simpler molecules. When you eat a piece of fruit like an apple or a banana, or you eat a hamburger or French fries, that food does not stay solid. We know it gets broken down. It gets broken down so small that it can get inside every cell of your body. Because every cell is a part of you. Every one of those trillion cells is alive, and it needs to be making energy because all living things need to make energy. Okay? Excretion, the removal and expelling of waste products by a living organism, for example, the exhaling of carbon dioxide. We could also talk about urination. We could talk about bowel movements and the release of feces as other forms of excretion. Sweating is not only cools your body, but also is a form of excreting. You're excreting some urea and other types of waste salts out of your body at that point. Okay, let's find another characteristic. Reproduction, produce offspring. That's what reproduction means. So if I want to know more about that, I can follow the arrows. And one of the ways that living things can reproduce is sexually. That means that there's two parents, usually a male and a female. This is how many of the things that we are most accustomed to or have the most experience with reproduce, humans included, cats, dogs, fish, lots of things, birds. Okay? But there's also a lot of organisms that reproduce asexually. So when you add the prefix a in front of a word, it means not. Okay, so asexual is not sexual. So it's not two parents, it's only one parent. And bacteria, another form of single-celled organism, protists that you're not familiar with yet for the most part. But bacteria you are familiar with because you know they can make you sick sometimes. Right? Anyone here ever have strep throat? Okay, so that's an example of a bacterial infection. Bacteria are everywhere. They're plentiful. They're not always harmful. You have bacteria in your stomach and in your intestines. Matter of fact, these bacteria make vitamin B for you, so you need them. Okay? And there's a whole new science called studying the gut biome that talks about the types of bacteria and colonies of bacteria and whole communities of bacteria that you need to be healthy. We're finding that they affect our health positively and negatively depending on if we have the proper gut biome. Okay. Another characteristic is that we're made of similar chemicals. All living things are composed of similar organic compounds. That means they have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And with these similar chemicals, we perform metabolism. It's the sum of all the chemicals activities in an organism. So what are these similar chemicals? Lipids. They're chains of fatty acids. They're used as an energy storage. So what are lipids? Well, if I follow the arrows further, some lipids are fats that are solid at room temperature, like butter and margarine, and some lipids are oils, where they're liquid at room temperature. Okay. Some similar chemicals, here's another arrow, are proteins. They're used to build structures in cells and make tissues like muscle. And some of, if I want to know more about proteins, I can keep following the arrows. And amino acids are associated with proteins because they are the building blocks of proteins. There's non-essential and 11 non-essential. Essential amino acids you need to get from the environment. Non-essential means your body can make those. Okay? If you're a vegetarian or know people that are vegetarian, they have to be very careful that they don't constantly eat the same protein source because they won't get all of the the essential amino acids that they need. So they have to vary their protein source. Another thing you should know about proteins is that some of them are called enzymes, and these are specialized proteins that speed up reactions. They make those chemical reactions that are part of your metabolism happen by breaking things apart or putting things together. So in digestion alone, there are many enzymes that help to break that food down and make it into those small pieces that can travel through your blood and get to all of your cells so that you can make energy. One of the other things that a similar chemical is nucleic acids used in every cell. They code for protein production. So if we're going to be making these proteins like enzymes and structural proteins like muscle and organs and tissues, you need to have these nucleic acids, which are the directions for how to make those. And those directions can be in the form of RNA, which stands for ribonucleic acid, and DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Both are used to express characteristics of organisms. They are considered the codes of life. If you are a living thing, you either have your code written as DNA or you have your code written as RNA. And just because you have your code written exclusively in one doesn't mean you don't have the other. For instance, our code is written in DNA. Inside all of our cells is the code to build a new you. But when the cells want to do things, they will use parts of the DNA message and they'll make copies, and those copies will be made of RNA. Another similar chemical that all living things have is carbohydrates. There are two types. Some are simple sugars such as glucose, while some are complex like starches found in food like rice and potatoes. Carbohydrates are mainly used as an energy source. Okay, so we take in carbohydrates every day, and that's the most available energy source. If we don't have carbohydrates available, you can break down fats and you can break down proteins. It's a more complicated chemical process. Okay? I'm going to keep going. So living things here, moving off of similar chemicals, living things also respond to their environment, and they respond by a stimulus because that's a change in the environment. And then there's a response. You just heard the bell ring, which means I'm supposed to get up and leave, right? So I'm now hurrying. That's how I'm responding to this. An example of class bell ring would be a stimulus. This response as students leave the class. Okay, another characteristic is growth and development. Adding new cells is growth, but the changing of those cells is development. Okay, development, puberty, something that as middle school students we're going through, right? Our bodies are changing, and that's an example of development. But even adults like myself are constantly developing. I know you think I look old and I'm old, but eventually I will look a lot older at some point, right? Okay, cellular organization. All things are made of cells, the basic structure and function of all living things. You're either uni, prefix that means one, unicellular, single cell, multicellular, many cells. Okay? And lastly, the four needs of living things are water, living space, using energy, and maintaining homeostasis. You can read about water. It's very, very important for all life's processes. Living space, you need to have space to get all your other needs like water, food, and things like that. And you have to use energy, as we've said. And you either are a heterotroph. Hetero means other, troph means food, so you eat other things for food, or you're the autotroph and you make your own food using sunlight. And the last thing, maintaining homeostasis. All living things must maintain stable internal conditions, such as body temperature, blood pressure, the amount of sugar in your blood. And if you just think about the things you do at the doctor's office, what they check on, right? They check your blood pressure. They check your temperature. What if your temperature is high? What do you have? You have a fever, right? What if what if they shine the light in your eyes and they notice your pupils weren't reacting? What would they know? Or your nervous system's not working right, right? So that's important. So anyway, I hope that was helpful, and you all have a great day.